naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhakta sevaya bhagavateruttama-shloke bhaktir-bhavati naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto number 3. Chapter number 25, text number 43. The chapter is entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. ज्ञान वैराग्य युक्तेना भक्ति योगेन योगिनः क्षेमया पादमूलं मे प्रविशन्ति अकुतो भयम् ज्ञान वैराग्य युक्तेन भक्ति योगेन योगिनः क्षेमया पादमूलं मे प्रविशन्ति अकुतो भयम् ज्ञान वैराग्य युक्तेन भक्ति योगेन योगिनः क्षेमया पादमूलं मे प्रविशन्ति अकुतो भयम् भक्ति योगेन योगिनः क्षेमया पादमूलं मे प्रविशन्ति अकुतो भयम् ज्ञानवैराग्ययुक्तेन भक्तियोगेन योगिना क्षमया पादमूलं मे प्रविशन्ति अकुतो भयम् ज्ञानवैराग्ययुक्तेन Vaishnavis. Jnana with knowledge, Vairagya and renunciation, Yuktena equipped, Bhakti Yogena by devotional service, Yoginaha the yogis, Shemaya for eternal benefit, Padamulam feet, me my Pravishan Akutaha Bhayam without you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Translation. With benefit, take shelter of my lotus feet. And since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead without fear. Quote, one who actually wants to be liberated from the entanglement of the material world and go back home, back to Godhead, is actually a mystic yogi. The words explicitly used here is yuktena bhakti yogna. Yogi engaged in first class yogis. The first class yogis, as described in Bhagavad Gita, are those who constantly think who are thinking of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These yogis are not without knowledge and renunciation. It means that is the consequent result of bhakti yoga. In the Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, also come that there is no explanation for the intents. Even if a person is unto engagement in devotional service, that's it. All the words of the ritual is revealed, not separately. Yogis who engage in devotional service are full in knowledge and renunciation. If there is a lack of knowledge and renunciation, it is to be understood that one is not in full devotional service. The conclusion is that one cannot be sure of entrance into the spiritual realm in either the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence of the Lord or the Vaikuntha planets within that Brahman effulgence, unless he is surrendered unto the supreme feet, unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. The surrendered souls are called Akuto Bhaya. They are doubtless and fearless, and their entrance into spiritual kingdom is guaranteed. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमा ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामिने गौरत्वसे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि श्री गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं माधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. So, welcoming all of you for this morning Śrimad Bhāgavatam discussion on this wonderful subject matter from third canto, chapter number 25th, entitled "The Glories of Devotional Service." So, I'm here sitting in this Vyasasana. Actually, I'm the youngest from all the devotees assembled here, and thus I seek for your blessings and mercy before even attempting to speak on this elevated subject, because of my lack of qualification, lack of devotion, lack of any understanding. And thus the only hope is mercy, mercy of the Vaishnavas. So seeking for bowing down to each of your lotus feet, seeking for, this is also bowing down, seeking for your blessings so that I can serve Śrimad Bhāgavatam, serve all of you, and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also purify my heart for all of your pleasure. So, with this prayer, I would like to try my best to discuss something from this elevated subject matter, which is being described here by Sri Kapila, Lord Kapila, who is the son of Devahuti. So, Śrimad Bhāgavatam begins with the questions and answers. Bhagavad Gita also has a set of question and answers, and actually all of our lives is also a set of question and answers. If we understand that what questions to ask, then we will also reach the destination which is expected. Atahata Brahma Jigyasa. So the sages, Shaunakadi rishis, are asking questions to Sutta Goswami, and 6th question in the first chapter of Bhagavatam itself, and Sutta Goswami happens to answer them over the rest of the 18 chapters of Śrimad Bhagavatam first canto, wherein basically he is explaining how did Śrimad Bhagavatam appear, what was the reason for its discussion, and then for that to happen, the Pandavas have to retire. For Pandavas to retire, the Mahabharata has to end. And with all of that setting the background, Parishad Maharaj becomes the king, and Parishad Maharaj also has to retire for Śrimad Bhagavatam to appear. So while that is done, another personality has to also arrive at the right place at the right time by the supreme management, that is Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And that's where the narrations of Śrimad Bhagavatam by the lotus mouth of Shuka begins. That's the Śrimad Bhagavatam second canto onwards. And there in second canto, this Akuto Bhayam, right there in the beginning, when Sukadeva Goswami is answering the questions of Parikshit Maharaj. 2 questions he asks: what's the goal of anyone's life, and what is that person supposed to do who is just going to die? 2 days back we heard this is from our Yugal Kishore Prabhu, how to prepare for death actually. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking question specifically and generally. Specifically a person who is going to die, and generally a person, what is their duties. So answering that, Shukadev Goswami begins with the second canto, and interestingly the same Akuto Bhayam, without fear, comes there as well. Etan nirvidyamananam ichchatam akuto bhayam yoginam nripanirnitam harer namanukirtanam. So he says that whether it be someone who is nirvidyamananam, someone who is completely free from material desires, or someone who is having ichchatam, lots of desires, or someone who is someone who is yoginam, one who is completely self-satisfied, all 3 of them, they become akuto bhayam, free from all doubts, free from all fear, just by taking shelter of the holy name of the Lord. Harer Namanukirtam. So, someone who is Nam Anukirtanam, this Anu means has two meanings. One is that it should be done under the jurisdiction of someone, under the guidance of someone. And also, Anukirtanam means Satatam Kirtanam, all the times chanting. So, one who wants to be out of fear needs to take shelter of the holy name under the guidance of the previous acharyas. That's what Shukadev Goswami says. And further, he gives great details as per the questions asked by Parishit Maharaj. He answers that, and Parishit Maharaj asks 3 more questions, which he is answering. And at the end of 7th chapter, Parishit Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami becomes silent. And Parishit Maharaj wonders, I'm asking a few questions, he's answering. And I'm again asking, he's answering. So let me just ask him questions. And when then he opens his heart and asks lots of questions. So many questions that 7 days is sufficient enough to answer all those questions. And that's the chapter number 8 of 2nd canto. And then Shukadev Goswami, he begins to narrate further answers to those questions. And in order to actually answer the questions which Parishit Maharaj is asking, Shukadev Goswami chooses to quote from the discussion that happened with Maitreya and Vidura. That is, and for that again Vidura has to leave. So that's 5 chapters, and then third kind of 5 chapters, and then he narrates what Maitreya told to Vidura, and there the description comes about the Visarga, how Brahma becomes the secondary creator, and also he explains about the Brahma wanted to have progeny but had some problems, 5 problems eventually, and ultimately there was Manu, and then Manu had sons and daughters, and that's how the creation began. And that's where he explains about one of the daughters of Manu, that's Devahuti. And Devahuti gets married to Kardava. Very detailed, amazing description there given. And then after their marriage, they had 9 daughters. Brahmaji is very happy, very satisfied, very pleased by their service. And then, as Kardama, according to his promise, he had given children to Devahuti. He says, I'm going, according to the pre-arrangement before the marriage. But Devahuti requests that I have been solidly cheated by Maya, that although Saham Bhagavata Nunam Vanchita Mayaya Dridam, she says that I am solidly cheated by Maya. In spite of the presence of your availability, at my disposal, I just engaged in mere sense gratification. I did not work towards self-realization. And that's when she requests that please, before you leave, provide me abhaya. Abhaya without bhaya, akuto bhayam. And indirectly she told that please give me a son. That's when Kardamani decides to stay back. And of course, that was revealed by the Lord to himself. Lord Vishnu only had revealed to Kardamuni that I will appear, and that had not happened. So then he decides, okay, I'll stay back. Although he had completed his promise, fulfilled his promise of giving children, and he could have chosen to go, but he chose to stay back to provide fearlessness. That means a son. On the material as well as spiritual perspective, we will discuss that how. And then there was the advent of Lord Kapila. And as soon as Lord Kapila appears, immediately Kardamani leaves. Now, the Lord is himself coming to the house, but Kardamani leaves. And description is given, why does he leave? Because it is Rasabhasa, and he's in the Dasya Bhava and he cannot go to the Vatsalya Bhava all of a sudden, and he's setting an example for everyone that Vanaprastha has to be accepted, and he's fulfilling his promise. So, varieties of reasons explained. And now, in this 25th chapter, um, Devahuti is asking questions, very wonderful questions. She asks, in total, 7 questions Devahuti asks to Kapila Dev. And the first question that she asks is, please dispel this illusion that I am in of aham mameti. Everyone is in that illusion that I am this body, and everything that is connected to this body is mine. So I and mine, this is the illusion. So please dispel from that darkness. And that's what Kapila Dev is answering until now. So yeah. So further, um, Devahuti asks actually 3 questions at that place. She asks, first is how to go beyond this aham mameti, dispel that ignorance, dispel that darkness due to my false ego which has been created by your illusory energy. And then she asks, what kind of bhakti should I perform to attain your lotus feet? And answering the previous question, the first question before, this portion of Śrimad Bhāgavatam is answering actually the second question. And Kapila Muni, the son of Devahuti, is actually answering that how to attain lotus feet. Those who take the shelter of my lotus feet, so they are eligible to come to me. So this is how the whole Śrimad Bhāgavatam until here is we can understand, and this is where we are currently. So now someone may ask, if Devahuti is simply wanting to understand how to attain the lotus feet of the Lord, then why is he asking for other things? What are the other ways of what the yogi do and what the jnani do and what the Sankhya philosophy, how is it understandable by various schools of thoughts and philosophies? So the response to that is that if someone is knowing just one thing, that's inquisitiveness. Inquisitiveness will understand what is that which I need to know. But an intelligent person will understand what everything, how does everything exist. He will also know what are the ideas of other people as well. So there's a difference between just an inquisitive person who is just wanting to know what is in it for me and how do I go beyond it. But an intelligent person will not just be inquisitive to understand what is he supposed to do, but also has the intelligence and knowledge to understand various philosophies of schools of philosophy and still follow the highest and the best. So although Devahuti understands that one should perform bhakti, she should perform bhakti, still she inquires about varieties of yoga and jnana, which Kapila Dev mercifully clarifies. So here Lord Kapila Dev is actually telling this current verse is about that the yogis are taking shelter of my lotus feet by bhakti, which is mishrit. Mishra bhakti, which is mishra with jnana and vairagya. So jnana, vairagya, yuktena. Yukta means additionally. So yuj, additionally, addition to jnana and vairagya is the bhakti. So that means this is not pure devotional service. This is mixed devotional service, mixed with jnana and vairagya. The previous verse was talking about how, and previous verses and of even the next verse talks about pure devotional service. But this verse talks about mixed, that how one is equipped with jnana and vairagya. And then also this, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this particular verse talks about bhakti Mishra Gyanis and Bhakti Mishra Yogis. So this is like mixed devotee. So yet, because they are having bhakti element very prominently, they are eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. So this is what Lord Kapila is telling, that one is one who is equipped and with jnana and vairagya is actually attaining shelter of my lotus feet. Although he is having jnana and vairagya, but because there is bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport very beautifully how jnana and vairagya is something that is like automatically that will come when one is performing bhakti, because they like it is mentioned that jnana and vairagya are like sons of Bhakti Mata. So they will, wherever bhakti is prominent, automatically one will develop the knowledge which is needed for practicing bhakti, and also sufficient renunciation which is needed for progressing in bhakti. Actually, the jnana, the knowledge, leads the pathway to renunciation as well. So that is very vividly, nicely described. And also, the person who is specifically looking forward to practice pure devotional service need not endeavor, especially in any of these directions, because that's automatically done. Prabhupada explains that, it's just ahetuki, without reason, they just come. There is no explanation for these attainments. So it just comes, just like dawns within someone who is just practicing pure devotional service. So everything is revealed, whatever is necessary for this person to advance in pure devotional service, that's revealed. It's transcendental knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada also describes about how there is devotional service which one practices at various steps. There is danger. Not only various steps, all the steps. Danger at every steps. Padam padam yati padam. Not only devotional service in this material life. All the times when we are there in this material life is filled with vipada. Vipada means problems, issues, troubles, disturbances, illusion, and unnecessary miseries. So when one is wanting to progress and transcend the material world, one will be going through these hurdles, through this vipada. And at any moment, we may be completely peaceful, satisfied, everything is going on fine, health is good. Majority of people, they are struggling with so many factors. If they don't have wealth, then they are looking for that. And if they have the wealth and they don't have health, they're looking for that. If they have health and wealth, there is problems in the relationship, they're looking to fix that up. And if everything of that is fine, they have themselves some financial issues, economic issues. No, there is no end to the list that the people may go through. So, and so many people, when I travel in the cities of India, people, when they see me as a monk, they will ask, can you see, do you know how to palmistry? Can you see my hands and figure out if there is how to resolve my problems? And then I just ask, what's your problem? Some people say, well, I'm having a problem of, one person, he told, please see, and please tell me. And I saw, and I was like, what do I tell him? Whole, it's all Prabhupada, as he told, birth, death, old age, disease. You're suffering from that. So that's true. But, the people, they are not ready to appreciate, accept this. So sometimes people are just looking for a quick fix solution to the dangers that they're in, but unfortunately they don't know that as soon as they will be able to mend one problem, there will be the another one popping up. And that's the reason we need to look for the permanent solution. The temporary solutions to the temporary problems is always going to be temporary, because it just, there's another set of problems that will come which will make those solutions irrelevant. So sometimes people don't want to find temporary solutions, and they find a permanent, so-called permanent solution to such simple temporary problems, and they feel, let me commit suicide. And whatever problem is going on, once and for all, according to their understanding, it's a permanent solution to those temporary problems. But ultimately, that is more suffering. They don't understand that the body is just a covering, and just by tearing that off, one will not find a solution. So one is always in those pains. This daily in the morning we sing twice, Sansara Dava Nallida Loka. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni. This is what we are in, and this we are making ourselves again and again remind ourselves that actually we are in a big trouble. We may be peaceful sitting now, but actually potentially that trouble is all the times there. Without the least intimation, at any point of time we may be in the most difficult situations of our life, but that will not come with a notice, and thus we need to be prepared. So life is always a kind of a situation in which we should prepare for the final exam. And that's where it's very important that we need to take shelter. So when we are looking for some temporary solutions, that's not giving us fulfillment. Looking for, if I don't have wealth, I may acquire some wealth, but then where is the end to it? The bank balance may keep on increasing, 6 digit, 7 digit, 8 digit, 9 digit. Let the bank balance keep increasing, but then is that really fulfilling to the heart? The heart is still craving for something else. And then whatever we may be keeping on craving, at the end of the life, it just kind of whatever we have been always hankering for, that we may get, but again the hankering does not stop. It just goes on to something else. That's the reason we need to look for that which is permanent. That's the reason here akuto bhayam, and entering inside the eternal spiritual realm, that is pravishanti. Kshemaya padamulam me pravishanti. So entering inside the spiritual cosmos, that's what is the permanent solution to all the problems that we may face ever in life and beyond. So the problem of this world is that we have turned our consciousness against opposite to that of the Lord. We don't want to follow what He says. We don't want to really obey His orders and instructions. That's the reason we are suffering in this material world. And that's the reason the Lord keeps coming in various forms and ways and incarnations, and He just wants to help us remind what are we supposed to do. So many incarnations, so many pastimes, so many ways the Lord comes actually. The Lord comes in the form of His deity, Lord comes in the form of Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Lord comes in the form of the Vaishnavas, in the form of dhams, and in the form of chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The Lord comes in His holy name, accessible, available anywhere. So He is coming in various forms just to attract us, just to connect to us, and just delve us into His eternal pastimes and His eternal leelas. But the foolish living entity is very much determined to not be connected to the eternal Lord, and still figure out his personal ways of being happy. That's the reason we are having so much of anxiety, trouble, and problems. So, how to get beyond? How to get beyond this? One, like here, I was talking about how the yogis, the yogi, he is the Bhakti Mishra yogi, the Bhakti Mishra Jnani. What is the problem with the yogis and jnanis is they want to achieve the Lord, or they want to conquer the truth by themselves. And exactly opposite, the bhakta, he is not having any, you know, as such, confidence on his own self, but he's having full confidence on Lord. And that defines his dependence. So for a bhakta, he is dependent completely on the Lord, and that means he is submissive. And for a yogi or a jnani, he is, he is having his ambitions. So, that brings us to the third part of our discussion. The first part we discussed about where is the shloka standing in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam. We discussed since the beginning of the Bhāgavatam, how does this shloka come in this picture. Then we discussed about what is the understanding of this shloka as being described by Srila Kapil Dev. And third part of my humble presentation is about ambition versus submission. So we are understanding how yogis, they are looking forward to be ambitious. They are looking forward to connect to Krishna. They don't know that's Krishna. Some may know, some may not. By their own means, by their own capacity. And they are always having the consciousness that we will do it. We will be able to make it. We will put our energy, our intentions. We will do all the practices and the varieties of asanas or yogas or pranayama and control my mind and senses. Or for a jnani, I'll do speculations and reading a lot, acquire knowledge, and I'll grasp the truth. I'll attain him. But for a bhakta, it does not work that way. He is declaring his dependence to the Lord, and the Lord, by seeing his dependence, he lifts him up. That's the process of bhakta. It's like a lift process, elevator process. Elevator process means he's just wanting to be around, and elevator pulls him up. He is not doing the hard work. He's just doing one work, that he's taking shelter of that elevator. That's all. So in our practices as well, although as devotees, we may not be jnanis or bhaktas, but we may be having our ambitions. And while we understand this concept of ambition versus submission, ambition against submission, so we need to appreciate this, that there are certain ambitions that we may also have, which could be to please and serve the Lord or our superiors or the devotees at large, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So ambitions which are driven with that intention may not be wrong. Yet, because they are ambitions that may make us go into the mode of passion, into the mode of achievement, into the mode of that I will do it, I will fix it, I will achieve it, I will show that I can also do it. I am also worth it. And um, and the way it works is, yes, it moves. We do achieve some things. We do grasp some things, and the people also, are appreciating. They also clap, and they also understand that yes, things are working. Yet, when one is moving ahead in this direction of being ambitious, one also needs to add into his consciousness the concept of being submissive. So, without being submissive, ambitions can lead to big problems. We will see that from some examples from Śrimad Bhāgavatam. We have the example of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was, quite ambitious. He wanted to achieve a planet which is much greater than his great grandfather, Brahma. And that is quite an ambition. And nowadays, people say that I am very ambitious. But, I mean, can someone be as ambitious as Dhruva? People may say that I'm ambitious. I want to, beat Elon Musk or something like that to the max, and that too is like a theory for them. They will just choose to come and get a job or get a seat in a university. That's fulfillment of their ambition. But even the most ambitious people of the current world can't be as ambitious as Dhruva. But this Dhruva's ambition was coordinated, directed by the grace of Srila Narada Muni, due to which he achieved success. He achieved the darshan of Lord Vishnu. And that ambition which he had, being redirected by a pure devotee, led to successful understanding of the uselessness of his ambitions. I mean, that's the way it works. Another instance, the same Dhruva Maharaj, he was ambitious to kill a whole dynasty of yakshas. He's completely, wiped them off. And while he is doing that, Manu Maharaj, his grandfather, he comes and says, well, enough of it, stop it. And this is a challenge for a person who is ambitious. When he is being told he is going to achieve what he has defined his success as, but when he is told to stop, that is the test for whether he is ambitious or submissive. So, while he saw that his grandfather is telling, don't do this, and instead go and seek for forgiveness from Kubera, the father of the yakshas, the caretaker. So he does that. And if you see that way, then Dhruva Maharaj is spiritually much more advanced than Kubera. Kubera is a kind of a demigod where Dhruva Maharaj has seen darshan and he has received blessings that he'll never forget Vishnu. But the fact is, he goes and he submits. And that's the reason he is so glorious. Another example we see in the same fourth canto Śrimad Bhāgavatam is Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj is actually ambitious to, of course, that is done with a mood of service, but still there is an ambition to go to the 3 digits, century, 3 digits. But then there is a hindrance. Indra becomes insecure and he does multiple things, which is like something not very exemplary. He wears the dress of a sannyasi and does things which is leading, which actually Śrimad Bhāgavatam says that it led to encouragement of people who were pseudo sannyasis, pseudo sadhus. So now, as Prithu Maharaj was tested to his limits, he took the final call. Okay, fine, let it be done. And so he instructed the Brahmanas to chant the final prayers, mantras by which Indra will be sucked within the arena, the sacrificial arena, the sacrificial fire. But just then comes Brahma and he instructs him, Prithu, please be satisfied with 2 digits. You are not going to go to the third one. And, someone may question, I am not wrong. He is wrong. I have not anything wrong. I am doing this for the welfare of the people at large. I don't want to become Indra. I am not having those desires. But he is becoming a hindrance for the service. I am doing this for the pleasure of the Lord. But without any arguments, without any clarifications or blurting out his mind and heart, Prithu Maharaj is glorious because he simply accepted submission instead of fulfilling his ambitions. And he simply told, fine, yes. And just by doing that, it pleased Lord Vishnu so much that the Yajna Purusha who was supposed to come at the end of the sacrificial fire, he came much before. And he was so overwhelmed by the devotion of Prithu that the Lord is unable to stand. I mean, not able to stand out of ecstasy. We see quite many people out there at the end of the night, they're not able to stand due to various intoxications. But the Lord is not able to stand. Seeing the devotion of Prithu, he has to take help of his Garuda. Garuda's neck, Lord is holding the neck and is, to just be stable. That's the love that the Lord is experiencing by seeing the submission of Prithu Maharaj. We can see this as a, repeated theme, repeated phenomenon. And what could be better example than Srila Prabhupada? Srila Prabhupada in his life also, we can see, he was given a service, go to the West and preach. And as he was trying his best to do things in Jhansi, it was a good ambition, found a good place. He had made plans. Well, this could be the temple room, this could be the deity kitchen, this could be a place for the brahmacharis, this could be a place for the guests to come. He had planned everything within his mind. Things were working, things were taking shape. And all of a sudden, there was problems. And just the whole thing, was just going up right in front of him. And then he had to submit. He could choose to, prove his ambition and wage a war against that, but then he chose to just submit. Okay, fine, this is what the Lord wants me to do. And that was the reason he went over Vrindavan. And further, leaving Jhansi, and further he came to know, about his business. Before that, his business also kind of collapsed. His thought and plan was that I would get so much of money which would be useful for the propagating of the mission. But that was not the plan of his spiritual master. That was not the plan of the Lord. And keeping his ambitions aside, keeping his agendas aside, Srila Prabhupada just submitted to what is going to come up. And, he came all the way to the West and started beginning programs here. It took about a year to make things visibly, something is happening. Multiple times he went checking when is the next ship back to India. But he kept on struggling to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master submissively. And when further the things took good shape and Prabhupada was in Chicago, and he had made, no, I'm sorry, San Francisco. He had made that as the headquarters because of the standards of deity worship that were being made there. And Prabhupada was planning that I will be there. And I'll call all the GBCs, train them one by one after another, the deity standards, the various standards, and I'll remain here, making this as the headquarters. But something happened, mystical, unplanned things happened, and the situation was that Prabhupada had to go back to India. And Prabhupada was like, went in front of the Lord and was telling, I mean, why are you sending me back? But again, he was having his understanding of ambition, of what is success, what is fulfillment of the desires of his spiritual master. But the Lord has his own plans. And submitting to that is what we can learn from the life of even Srila Prabhupada, who is our example, paramount example of submission. Now, this submission does not just necessarily mean to follow the life teachings of a person who is around. That could be best if that is available. A person around who is giving us dynamic guidance available for asking anything that we have to, and we get the answers to that. That's wonderful. Sometimes that's not possible, and thus we need to read from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Bhaktivedanta purports, and the letters of Srila Prabhupada, understanding the mood, and very properly we need to follow submissively what Srila Prabhupada wants us to do. So that's how the submission principle can be implemented. So just summarizing what we discussed. First, I began with this the geographical status of this verse in terms of where it is in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, how the Śrimad Bhāgavatam leads to this verse. Then we discussed what is there in this verse, how Lord Kapila is explaining that Jnana Mishra, Bhakti Mishra Jnana, Bhakti Mishra Vairagya, is available here because it is yukte, equipped or added into it. And we also discussed what Srila Prabhupada describes for this verse with respect to this world being a place for danger, and the only hope to get beyond is eternally pada moolam, at the lotus feet of the Lord. And then we also understood what does it mean to be submissive with respect to being aggressive or being ambitious. And we saw that with the examples of Dhruva Maharaj, two examples of Dhruva Maharaj and Prithu Maharaj. Even Prachini Barishad, there are so many examples. Prachini Barishad, now both of them, Dhruva Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, were having devotional attitude. Prachini Barishad was having a karma kanda attitude. He was doing that and was quite intense. Not even a grass, it is mentioned, Dhruva grass remained. He was doing so much of yagya. But then Narad Muni comes and instructs him, the whole Puranjana Pakhyan, and then he realizes, well, there's something wrong which I have been doing, and I accept what you're saying. There's submission. So he has got his definitions of ambition, but he is choosing to undergo submission. And then we also saw the beautiful example from the life of Srila Prabhupada. So I request the assembled Vaishnavas to kindly add, edit, subtract, kind of share whatever you feel like. If I have spoken anything which were beyond my realizations, which were sounding improper, kindly understand that if a child speaks something, non-matured child, then he can be kind of forgiven, and understanding me to be like that, please do forgive me. Yeah, so I kind of open the rest of the time for some discussions from my superiors.
Thank you for your class, which was very well prepared. I just have one point that's interesting regarding the renunciation and knowledge. Is like a verse 127 in the Bhāgavatam, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. That indicates that the result of bhakti is this Jnana and Vairagya. And then 5 verses later, there's this verse Chadarana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya, which talks about how Jnana and Vairagya are used in performing bhakti properly. So it's interesting how these two ideas are there. You know? So it seems like that Jnana and Vairagya aren't all bad and aren't all perverting the bhakti, but they're actually assisting the bhakti. Yeah. Do you want to comment on that, or?
Your comment is complete in itself. It's both ways. Jnana and Vairagya are outcome of pure devotional service, and the more the Jnana and Vairagya is, it supports also the pure devotional service. It just assists, and because of that, pure devotional service takes its shape. But specifically, one need not focus and practice Jnana and Vairagya. It just pours out automatically. Ahituki. That's what Prabhupada says. Thank you for your comment, Prabhu. Yes,
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Well, that is about synchronized consciousness, because the same point is the same thing I'm thinking, and I will not decline from not sharing, because we are all with that love of understanding and better understanding. And you were saying that Bhakti is the mother of Jnana and Vairag. And I've heard that a long time back as a child, and I always appreciated that wonderful explanation that the mother of Bhakti, which is Bhakti, she nourishes Jnana, Vairag, and as Prabhu is quoting the verse, but also Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta, Eka Bhakti Vishishyate, that Priyo hi Jnani Notaham Aham Sachamam Priya. That Jnani, he is very dear to me. And that he is, Srila Prabhupada explained in that purport, that he's on, that type of Jnana makes him unwavering. And Srila Prabhupada explained that Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is the same. And that type of Bhakti and that type of Jnana. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach Vairagya Vidyanija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartam Eka Purusha Purana. Sri Krishna Kripam Buddhi Yasamaham Papadye. So our great fortune is that we have this Jnana that can illumine us, illuminate our minds and souls, and strengthen Bhakti. And if Jnana and Vairag is strong, then Bhakti becomes even more stronger. So I was just thinking along this line, and Prabhu, I guess he's thinking along the same line, and we are sitting here hearing a wonderful class, and we do appreciate, your endeavor to, sit there in a beautiful way and extend yourself, in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, becoming an instrument of our realization.
Seeking for your blessings for the same.
Prabhu, and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Jai Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.